I see you there. You're stuck. You want a tattoo, you think it's cool, you got a couple ideas in your head, but you're so overwhelmed by the process. Maybe people telling you you're gonna regret it. You're thinking about how bad it's gonna hurt, how much it's gonna cost, on and on and on and on. I had so many questions in the beginning, and I figured I really would create a series to help people throughout their tattoo process, to really simplify it and make it less intimidating. This is the first episode of 3 that you're watching. How to decide on getting a tattoo. The next episode is going to cover how to prepare for getting a tattoo. And the last episode is going to show you how to take care of your tattoo once it's done. So I love tattoos. I'm super stoked to talk about these topics, and I hope you stick around. Welcome back to the channel. This is Flonot. I'm Brad. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to decide on getting a tattoo. I'm going to jump right in. I've broken up into a few topics. The first one being brainstorming. So have you ever been in a brainstorming session at work or with friends?
Brainstorming session is now open.
And you're just throwing out ideas. You're not worried about what's good or bad. You're just getting the ideas out. Someone's writing on a whiteboard frantically as all the ideas come in. Very similar process here. I recommend writing down on a piece of paper, opening up on a note on your phone, write down anything that comes to mind. Once you get all the ideas down, then take that list and kind of think about it a little bit more long term. So this is my own personal perspective. I know some people go out and just get one sporadically. I'm not really that type of person. I just like to think about it a little bit longer to make sure that what I get on my body, it's not something I'm gonna get tired of seeing. Maybe you don't want the band that you're into right now that you're gonna hate 10 years later. Maybe your favorite movie right now won't be your favorite movie 10 years from now. Think about it kind of in that perspective too. Then start to think about size and placement. So this is really important. And I've listened to some tattoo artists tell me this from what I've seen online and kind of done on my own research. But I'll throw out an example. Say you want a small tattoo and you think in your head, I'm only getting one. I'm getting one and I'm gonna stop. Well, some people get one and they start to get kind of addicted, and then they want a second, a third, and they keep going. I'll use my forearm as an example, and I'll throw some B-roll in here so you can see some of my tattoos better, but this tiger is like a Japanese style tiger. It's pretty much the whole length of my forearm. Say I got a little tiny tattoo, and say I put it right dead center on my forearm. And then after I get this one, I'm like, man, I got this feeling now that I want to get a second. And you have a bigger idea, a cooler idea. Now you have this little tiny tattoo that you might have to work around for the bigger idea that you have. Kind of place it in a way where you have a lot of canvas to work with still if you have other bigger ideas. If you're getting a bunch of little tiny tattoos, then maybe it won't matter as much, but kind of keep that in mind when you're visualizing that maybe you don't want to put your small tattoo right in the middle of a good area for a larger tattoo. Visualizing is really big too. I visualized on what I want so often to the point where I wasn't surprised when the ink was actually on my skin. And I think that's really important, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in this episode too. So the next thing is finding inspiration. So for me, I think the most helpful thing was Instagram. I use the save collections, so if you see a tattoo that you like online, you can save it. I'm sure you've used it, but if you haven't, Instagram creates like these little folders. Mine was called tattoos. And I just started a little collection of all the tattoos that I liked, or maybe artists that I like. This is really good, again, in the visual stage, just having this folder ready to go with all the images that you like or get inspired by. Do your research too. I mean, if you are the person that's kind of stuck, it might take you a little bit to really land on an idea. The more you can kind of go through these steps, the easier it will become in your head to where you can actually start to see it on yourself and get comfortable with the idea of actually getting a tattoo. And kind of leaving in the next one, sticking on the Instagram topic, because that's what I used, is finding an artist. Instagram gave me a great gauge on basically the artist's portfolio. You could see a large list of clients and visuals of tattoos that they've done. You could reach out sometimes to people that have been tattooed by that artist and maybe hit them up on Instagram to see what their experience was like. I think it's a really good gauge on whether the artist is reputable or not. But the other thing around that too is you start to understand the tattoo artist's style. Typically they'll list it in the bio, or they might have a website that you can go to and they'll say, hey, I specialize in American traditional, Japanese, they'll kind of break down what their styles are. Sometimes what you want, they might not specialize in, but they might be able to recommend you to another artist in the shop or another artist that they know of that might be able to fulfill your needs a little bit better than they can. So yeah, artists with a good reputation and finding the correct tattoo style. Those are really important. This next one is the hardest one, but I think it's the most important. Wait. Have you ever impulsively bought something online? Maybe you bought something on Amazon and you get excited and then it shows up and you're like, why did I spend money on something that's stupid? They tell you to leave it in your cart for a couple days or a week or whatever it is. Most of the time, if you put something in your cart and you revisit it later, a lot of times you're glad that you didn't buy it. The same thing, even more dramatically, relates to tattoos. Don't impulsively get a tattoo and then wake up the next morning and be like, what did I do?
Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right, Lord?
Really take the time to think through it and visualize. So going back to your saved collections in Instagram, or if you use another app, my process was I would basically open Instagram pretty much every day and look at the images that I wanted to get for a tattoo. So my personal process, I wait a year. I usually get tattooed at the end of the year when it's winter time, and I basically have the tattoo covered for most of it. So I'm not out in the sun. I don't have to worry about, it fading and all that kind of stuff. That to me is the best time to get it. I think based on research online, that's what I found out. Again, do your own research, but I think they tell you to get it in the winter time because you can stay covered up and let it go through its healing process. Don't be the person that gets a tattoo and then goes to the beach or the pool and just fades the shit out of their tattoo, and then it just looks like this blurred black blob or colored blob, whatever you end up getting.
Yeah, that definitely looks infected.
If you're gonna spend money on getting a tattoo, take the time to take care of it and let it go through its healing process. Otherwise, what's the point? You've wasted your money and now you have this weird looking thing on your skin. So we'll talk about more of the taking care of it in a later episode, but the waiting is really, really important. And the visualizing along with that is really, really important. Take the time to look at it a lot. You don't want to be shocked by the time that it goes on your skin, and the visualizing portion of this just gets you used to seeing that image on yourself. And that really does, I've found, helps a lot. I get all black and gray tattoos, so the one on my leg is like from my big toe up to my ass essentially. And it was a little jaw-dropping when I saw all the black ink down below, but I had looked at this idea for so long that it really didn't surprise me that much. The last thing, now that you've decided on your idea, you found your artist, you know they're reputable, they have the style that you want, the last thing is to book an appointment. So some of these artists that might be a little bit bigger, they get booked like months in advance. So really take the time to typically go through it might be a website. I'm gonna speak from my own personal experience on this. The guy that I go to specifically, Jeffrey, he has a website that kind of says like, hey, I specialize in this style. I have the right to decline your idea if he doesn't specialize in a particular area. You have to put a deposit down in advance that actually applies to when I get my tattoo. So in my case, it was $100. But take the time to make sure you're booking in advance to get the date and time that you want. The other thing around the appointment too is I typically like morning slots. It tends to hurt a little bit less. I've had sessions where it starts in the morning and goes until the evening, and my evening slots always hurt more. I have a full stomach going into it in the morning with whatever I ate, and that's just from my own experience. I found that the morning times tend to work best. So, was this helpful for you? Let me know in the comments. Did this help you, maybe give you some ideas on how to actually decide on a tattoo? Because I know it can be a little bit overwhelming at the start. I know it was super overwhelming for me in the beginning, and I love doing research, so I always just deep dive into a topic where it almost makes me sick of researching the topic. It's just how my brain works. So if you like this video, I hope you consider subscribing. I've really, really enjoyed all the subscribers so far. You all have been very interactive and super positive in the comments, which I don't know what I was expecting in the beginning, but I really appreciate all the supportive comments and just overall interaction. So punch the like button below. It helps recommend this video to other people, and I will see you on the next one. So to make it easy, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I forgot how to talk.